Welcome to the Leap Health Workplace podcast. Here we explore innovative, proven health and wellbeing solutions to drive your performance and productivity. Leap Health empowers individuals and organisations to prioritise their health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. We do this by providing workplace health and wellbeing performance workshops and also the Leap 360 one-to-one leadership coaching to drive health, wellbeing and performance, powered by the Game Changer Index Energy for Impact profiling tool. And we offer bespoke corporate programs to ignite proactivity in ownership at all levels of health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. Whether you're sat at your desk right now or on the move, get ready to listen, get ready to invest your time and take action straight after. I'm Anna Ready. Let's get ready to make small steps to leap health. Welcome to the episode today, and today is a topic which is really, really close to my heart, all around fertility. And we've kind of touched on this previously a couple of years ago on the podcast, but today I believe we're going to be going into a lot more depth and you're going to get some really, really valuable insights. And this isn't just you if you're struggling with fertility right now. It might be that you think about it in the future, or you might know someone else who is struggling with it. And as many of the listeners will know, I myself struggled with fertility for years and years and years. From my first child, had to take Clomid. With my second child, was IVF, and 16 years of it never ever happening naturally, and me just believing that I couldn't conceive naturally. I had the biggest shock of my life with my third child. So today I'm delighted to welcome on the show Bilge and Valerie, who are the founders of Tiny P, and they are on a mission to empower people to steer their own fertility journey. And just really help those people who are needing that support right now, who are thinking about it long term. And stats do show right now in the US, around about 1 in 5 people will struggle with fertility problems. So as I always say in every episode, we've got to be proactive. We've got to empower ourselves. So if you're thinking right now, it's not relevant to me right now, I don't have to think about it for a long, long time. Just listen up, because it's so important to be proactive and empower yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to ask these wonderful ladies to introduce themselves and tell us why you need to listen up during this episode and what they're going to bring to you. So, Bilge, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, and thank you so much, Anna, for having us today. You did an amazing introduction to the topic. It's very important, and yeah, we are here because we created a tool called I Am Magic. It's a fertility book. It's a fertility workbook that we say it's the ultimate fertility workbook for empowerment, choices, and self-love. Because we should be bringing ourselves as the main character to this topic. That's why it's important to be proactive. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And if I step a little bit back, who I am a Turkish-Swiss person living in Switzerland, in Zurich. And I'm married. I have 2 kids. I'm a tech professional. But yeah, we went on and created this company, Tiny P, to talk about fertility health, reproductive health, and yeah, eventually created this book. I hand over to Valerie.
Thank you, Bilge. Can I just interrupt there? You did miss it. You are a TEDx speaker as well, so highly credible in your field.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's
apologies, Valerie, go for it.
Sure, it actually ties into how we met. But neither Bilge nor I are medical professionals. I think that's also important to say, but we worked with medical professionals and experts on this book who reviewed it. So it's really, a book that is based on our own experience with the topic, on what we felt we would have needed at the time when we started our journeys. But also, so it's not just our experience, but it's validated by experts who do know what they're talking about. And I am Valerie. I am a Swiss with many, many roots person. I am a communications professional by in my day job. And a couple of years ago, when I started my fertility journey as a single woman with no children, but loads of interest to, take charge of my own life. I heard Bilge speak at a TEDx event for women, and it was the first time I had heard anyone speak about this subject in a public space. So I thought, oh, this lady I must meet. And off I went, and in the networking kind of accosted her. And yeah, the rest is history. And we've got this wonderful tool now that we'll be talking about a little bit more today, and the topics that we touch on in the book that are really close to our heart. Because what I found out on my journey, I think Bilge as well, like knowledge is power, and it's so important to feel empowered to make the right choices for yourself, for your own body, for your own life.
Wonderful. And I think that's really key, isn't it? Empowered with your choices for your life. So, your situation, as you said, you single lady and wanting to know how you can, protect your chances of conceiving. I think, it's really interesting. So we're not just going to be going back down like the typical route today. We're going to be exploring all avenues, which is what I think our listeners will be really interested in. So before we get started, maybe just tell us a bit about what are some of the challenges facing people right now in terms of fertility.
I think how the things are going in the world, also like how women is placed in the society. Things are moving a little bit later in life, and that brings challenges due to our ages. I say women, but also for men. I mean, it takes two to tango, and we forget men in this picture most of the time. But health researchers are catching up, to be honest, especially in the fertility area. So if I go back and talk about some challenges, yes, women trying to make some career study, and then, when the time comes, like, okay, we can relax and have a baby, then we get to understand after 35 years old, our egg quality is diminishing. And also our reserves of eggs are diminishing. So that brings the challenges with it to get pregnant easier than before. And with that, we figure out, okay, that's not super easy. And we continue to go with the technologies, artificial, ART, artificial reproductive technologies like IVF. Valerie, do you have other challenges that you would like to mention?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got all the stats that are based on, the level of information and knowledge and research that we have today. But as we have come to understand, the data is flawed. And while it's a good indicator, I think knowing your own body is the most important thing, because for me personally, at 35, it was already very late. And I came to learn that for some people, and not, very few people, it's actually more than I thought, perimenopause and related other fertility issues, such as, endometriosis or PCOS and some other, they impact your fertility, or they can impact your fertility a lot earlier. So really knowing your body and having the right conversations, asking the right questions to your gynecologist, or any other medical professionals is very, very important. So, to your point that you made earlier in this podcast, Anna, it's about knowledge, and it's about knowing your body really, really well.
Yeah, and I'm just going to pull on that point you said around like the perimenopause, menopause, and there's a lot more awareness, isn't there, around perimenopause and how it starts a lot earlier than we actually realise. How did you feel at age 35 when people were talking about the perimenopause, menopause, and you were thinking, I haven't even got to the fertility, I would still love to have a child. How did that make you feel? Because I think sometimes we don't recognise the impact that all this noise around perimenopause and menopause, as beneficial as it is, that it can have on people who are considering their fertility journey. Could you, I know it's quite a deep question for you, but I think it'd be interesting and valuable for people to hear your perspective on that.
Absolutely. And I think my experience was that, as soon as I heard someone speak about it, it lifted so much pressure off myself. And I didn't feel as lonely, as isolated. It was still my thing, my journey, but it felt a lot lighter. So I'm very happy to share. Um, I think it also depends kind of regionally and socially on how the topic is dealt with. You're right, we're hearing a lot more about it, but some listeners may live in areas where it's still very much a taboo. And for me, it was a huge surprise that, at 35, I would be confronted with the topic. And frankly, I didn't know much about it. I thought, oh yeah, that's for old ladies from like 45, says the now 41-year-old. But also it manifests or shows itself through a variety of symptoms, and not all women will ever experience the same ones in the same intensity. So again, just learning about what kind of the norm is, or the red thread, the average, and then what it might feel for you as an indicator of where your body's going, and where you would like it to go as well. This is so crucial. And also, in my experience, your doctors don't know everything. They know medicine, they know what they learned at uni, but they don't know your body. So unless we tell them, this is our norm, this is my experience, then they can come in with their expertise, and jointly you can find the right path or treatment, or goals that are right for you as a person, for your partnership, for whatever goal you may have.
Thank you. Yeah. And that again, going back to that, really empowering yourself, isn't it? To know your body. And sometimes, we do put experts on a pedestal, and they are experts, but actually you can be the expert of your own body.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe just delving a little bit deeper into the science. Maybe let's go back to basics. Bilge, this might be one for you maybe to think about. So, if people are trying to conceive, what is the best time in the cycle? Give us a bit more just of the basics, so we can cover that off before we move on to other solutions.
So we written this book because many of the fertility workbooks out there are lacking actionability or decision making. So we try to put there some paths for people who are thinking, okay, like I'm 35, what do I do now? Or I'm 28, what do I do now? What is the science saying? And we know that 1 in 6 people are troubled with infertility issues. We also know that the age to start, or the average age in Europe to get pregnant with the first child is now 29.7. So it's around 30. It's getting later and later. So yeah, we recommend, of course, to start everything looking at from the natural perspective, understanding our individual bodies, what we have, like what kind of problems we might have underlying, like thyroid or dental problems, or there are many things that we don't really think of before starting to get pregnant. So it's really an individual process, and getting to know yourself, know your hormones or your hormone levels, or your vitamins in your body. You might be depleting in some sort of nutrient in your body that you're not even aware of, that is very necessary for your reproductive system. So it's really about understanding what are those nutrients that you need in your body to be able to create quality egg and quality sperm. So understanding these important terminology to start with. And then there's also the environment that we are always exposed to, the air or the food we eat at home, or even at the restaurants, that we can have no control over, right? What are these processed food that we are eating, and that has impact on our body? Nowadays, we have a lot of scientific research on the ingredients of the cosmetic products we use, or even the cleaning hygienic products we use. How can they harm our body, our general health, but also our reproductive system? We have many information out there today, and we have one chapter especially on this. How can we take control of the products we use, the food we eat, without being overwhelmed? Because I can understand this is very overwhelming process to go through. Just simple cream that you use every day on your face can actually harm your endocrine systems, which is producing hormones for you. So yeah, we recommend starting from the natural perspective, like looking at how manually I can manage my own health like a normal person. So my body can normally produce those hormones and like make sure that everything is working in the correct conditions. That's the first step. But then depending on the age, of course, after trying for a certain period, it's important to visit a doctor and get the correct advices for your own system, and understand what the tests are saying about your hormones and your nutritions.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, that early intervention, the earlier you can get in those healthy habits in terms of making your body a good place for a baby to grow, the better. So it doesn't matter however old you are, or if you're thinking, you know, I've got a lot longer to go in my career, but before I'm going to start thinking about kids, creating those healthy habits is key, isn't it? And yeah, am I right in thinking that if your body's stressed, if it's not balanced right, the first thing that's going to shut down, one of the first things your body will shut down, because we've only got so much energy, is your reproductive system. So you know, one of the best bits of advice I was given is just to think that your body's got to be a safe space for a baby to grow in it, for it to feel safe. So I want to just delve a little bit deeper into some of those solutions that you kind of touched on then. So in terms of nutrition, this was a biggie for me. I know when I was first trying with my first, it was all the fears around low fat, which lots of people were jumping on the bandwagon then. Big no, because we need those healthy fats. They're really key, aren't they, for our reproductive hormones. What else would you advise us around nutrition?
I mean, I think, you know, it was actually something that a friend of mine told her daughter about healthy nutrition. She said, you know, if you eat the rainbow, you should be fine. And it's really making sure that we have a balanced diet, that we have antioxidants, that we have the right nutrients, that we have complex carbs that can be broken down over time, give the body the right energy levels, the right fats, and you know, all that sort of thing. It shouldn't be rocket science, but it is, because we live in a society where we get very mixed messages on what healthy nutrition is. It feels like sometimes every year, you know, there's a new focus, you know, low fat, low sugar, low something, and then low sugar, you know, doesn't mean that there's no you know, sweeteners, which give different signals to the body and you know, kind of mess it all up. And by it's, you know, the whole endocrine system and all our nutrients, because the body doesn't really understand what to do with all of this processed food that we're taking in. So yeah, I think as natural, you know, eating as natural as we can, and also especially in an age where we need to be very mindful of, you know, also what we eat in terms of, you know, maybe less meat. We need to substitute, you know, proteins and different vitamins like B12, for example, in the right way. So I feel like everyone should, you know, eat the way they feel is right for them. That might be flexitarian, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, however, but to really be knowledgeable about what that all means. And you may need to add some supplements and things like that to really make sure that your body gets all the nutrients. And on that, again, we're not medical professionals. So we're just saying what the science is saying, but please, you know, listener, check with your doctor, make sure that you discuss your diet with them, what your goals are, and then jointly figure out what that means for you and, in your kitchen every day.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good takeaway, isn't it? That we want to nourish and really think about nourishing our bodies with food that's going to make us feel good and make it feel like a good, healthy place to be. But we don't want to be stressing too much about it as well, because it can be a period of time where you're worrying, so you don't want that added stress as well. But I think some key points there around lots of antioxidants, lots of and trying to maintain lots of those low glycemic foods as well. The way I always think of it is like a line on a chart. So you're trying to make that line quite consistent. If you have lots of things that are high in glycemic index, so that would be things like Haribos and really sugary things, it might give you that big energy boost straight away, but it's also going to give you a big dip as well. And those peaks and troughs that occur frequently cause stress in your body. So where you can, try to have those like whole grains, as you're talking about as well. Those whole grains, brown rice, wholemeal pasta, but also accompanying it with, as Valerie said as well, is some good quality protein as well, because that can minimize those peaks and troughs as well, along with those healthy fats. But also supplementing with the vitamins that you need, particularly if you are trying to conceive, that folic acid is important. So thank you for that insight around nutrition as well. So following on with the topic around it being a safe space, how else can we make our body a safe space?
I think, we alluded to it in terms of stress, mental health. I mean, body and mind are part of the same. And for holistic health, I think we often forget it, sadly, but the mind is just as important, as healthy belly, hormone system, and everything. And actually, they work in symbiosis. They mutually support each other, but also if one is in disbalance, the other might get stressed trying to overcompensate and things like that. So if Haribo or I don't know, great pizza or whatever is your jam and makes you happy, I think that's really important that occasionally you do treat yourself because it makes you happy. And that's very, very important, especially when trying to conceive, to have this kind of base happiness. We in our book we start at the beginning, of all that, like what is happiness? What makes you happy? What does that mean for you? Because again, that means different things to everyone. But also we explain how to maybe get there once you've kind of understood what that means. Being on a fertility journey can be very, very vulnerable. You may encounter different situations or people that can trigger you, words, sentences, experiences. So we also have examples on how to deal with those, whether that be, if you know a person well, depending on your relationship, you may feel like, hey, maybe I can educate the person in the sense that you offer an alternative of what to say. If they say, for example, try not to stress and it will happen. That's quite a big one, because you don't know. You don't know if it will happen. And the stress of trying not to stress is actually one title of a subtitle of that chapter. So we offer alternative sentences of what you could suggest that person to say or do. But I think equally important, as external conversations are, is the internal conversation that you have with yourself. For example, if you try IVF or just ART or egg freezing or whatever for a couple of cycles and things don't really work out as you hoped or as you thought they would, you may start feeling down and may start doubting yourself, your ability of doing anything, and you may have more negative self-talk. So that too can increase stress, and it's important to take a step back and say, no. So first love is with me, because I am magic, title of our book. And so how can I love myself better? How can I create a situation for myself to be in the best place I can be? Yeah, to be the best travel buddy for myself that I can be on this journey. And that could, that could entail reaching out and creating your team of experts that support you on that journey. That could be, if you do have a partner, to establish a way of how you talk about it as a couple, of how you support each other through this journey as a couple, but also, casting a wider net, speaking to your friends and family. How do you do that? Is that something that you want to do, maybe with your workplace? But also you might reach out to communities, to groups, support groups, and things like that. You may not do any of that. You may just want to do that on your own, and then, books or podcasts or films or whatnot might be your thing. But I think the conscious thinking about how you want to do that and how you create the best situation for yourself is a crucial element of this journey, and really making sure that you put your mental health, at the center, of your considerations is very important.
I love that. Yeah.
Sorry, if I may add, one part of that element of mind, we extended to the whole book in a way that at the end of each chapter, we have a reflection section. That's why one of the reasons we call this book as a workbook. And we ask the right questions to have an internal conversation with yourself and removing this negative self-talk, turning into a more positive self-talk with ourselves, and also digesting each chapter in the right way possible. And when I say chapters, I can just to give an idea what they are, like putting fertility in the context, like where you should start, defining your approach to fertility, upgrading your mind, upgrading your body, upgrading your environment, talking about even miscarriage, so on and so on. So each of these chapters have a reflection point with questions, and which you have answers inside you, but helps you to get those answers out and make the right choices for yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes just putting it down on paper and writing things down, it is really, really effective, isn't it? To get that clarity in terms of what those answers are. So what I'm hearing, which is wonderful, is the importance of, you training your mind and protecting your mind, and often we focus on those physical things, don't we? People trying for baby, like, well, get yourself fit, get fit and healthy. Well, it's just important to train your mind as well as your body. And I guess this comes back slightly into the nutrition as well, because there's so many links between the brain and the gut. So, all those antioxidants Valerie was talking about, but also your good bacteria as well, pre and probiotics can really help support your brain health as well as your gut, because of that bilateral connection. So I've got a question now. You said that one of the chapters of your book was Don't Stress About It. Was that the title? Yeah. There'll be lots of people in workplaces or, friends and family of those who are trying, that's the only thing they can actually think to say is, don't stress about it, it will be fine. How can people who don't really know what to say in these situations, what kind of things can they say that are comforting, productive, and useful, rather than just saying, don't worry about it? Because, as you said, it is the most ridiculous thing to say, and I've been there and heard people say that to me as well.
So, for example, I think people underestimate the power of just being there and offering some space, But if you would like to put some words to that, you could say, for example, I'm here for you if you ever want to talk about your feelings or experiences, or, try to say something positive and empowering, and say, for example, I admire your strength and resilience in facing this challenge, or I appreciate your openness in sharing your experiences with me, because I think also that's not a given. It's not a natural thing to do. It's still very vulnerable. So someone does open up to you about it, I think, kind of reinforcing and encouraging this this valor, this uh, oh, I lost the word now. Um, it's very important. So really, yeah, reinforcing the positives rather than putting the focus on the negatives, in your own way, in your own words, I think is the main thing.
Yeah, and I think how you said letting people know that you are there anytime, because there'll be some times when people want to talk and sometimes when people don't want to talk as well. And I think further to your point is that just accepting that people don't always want to talk, and it's not nothing against you, but maybe they're just not in that headspace.
Right. Maybe they just need a hug, maybe they just need a funny meme, or a walk in silence, or yeah, I think, especially if you're friends with someone, if you're close to someone, you'll know a little bit what makes them happy or what brings them peace. And then, rather than using what you think are comforting words, try to play to that and let the person come to you whenever they're ready.
Thank you. So in terms of like the lifestyle interventions, we've talked a little bit about nutrition around protecting your mind. And so there's the power of movement as well. But again, all these things are in balance, aren't they? And the importance of sleep. Do you want to delve a little bit more into any of those areas?
I think what you said about sleep is so important. I created a chart to make sure that all the right elements in there and how it affects our hormones and our metabolism. We tend to forget about sleep, especially in the younger ages. We're like, oh, I don't need so much sleep. But that's when we regenerate. Then it's really at the heart of everything. If you get a good sleep, you're already starting with +1 to your day, and all your body appreciates this basically. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
And Valerie always says it's different for everyone, as again we're individual. So for me, the key sleeping time is 8 hours, but for you it can be 7. Scientifically, it's known that for women it's longer than men, so we need to put that into consideration as well. If you're sleeping with a partner on the same bed, that doesn't mean you need to wake up at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because when you do then get around to having kids, it generally seems to be the woman that gets the sleepless nights. So yeah, fascinating. But yeah, I am also a cheerleader of sleep, and that was a big change in terms of how my mindset had changed 16 years later from trying for years and years. I'd really started to focus on the importance of sleep, which maybe I'd neglected years and years before. So yeah, I do echo everything that you said. So I'm conscious I want to make sure we include all this valuable information in the time that we've got together. So I'd love to know a little bit more about assisted reproductive technology such as IVF, egg freezing. Tell us a bit more about that, please, because I'm sure people are intrigued to know what are the options aside of those lifestyle interventions if they're not getting any success.
There's silence because you have your own experience, right, Anna, with IVF. So we haven't been through, but what the science says or does right now, the chances are getting better and better because there's also this AI aspect coming into it. Other than IVF, I don't know if there are any interesting technologies coming.
While researching for the book, I learned a lot. So we all talk about IVF, but also, there's IUI, which probably is actually before IVF, which is the intrauterine insemination, where the sperm is placed into the uterus rather than one sperm injected into the egg, as in the fertilization outside of the body. There's also something called the gamete intrafallopian transfer, which is a transfer of both eggs and sperm into the fallopian tube so they can there merge, or zygote intrafallopian transfer, which is a transfer of the fertilized egg into the fallopian tube. Or pre-implantation genetic testing is something that would typically be done anyway. And that is really to understand if the egg and the sperm are genetically compatible. I think that would be, it depends on the clinic, I guess, as well, but what that would be done in any case for a couple seeking assisted reproduction technology, particularly IVF, to ensure that there is an element of success. But also if, for example, and we live in Switzerland and it's not allowed there, but if you as a single woman would like to, for example, use donor sperm, you would first make sure that that donor sperm is actually compatible with your egg. So genetically, there's a compatibility. Otherwise, you would choose another donor. So yeah, there are quite a few different things. And I think, medicine is evolving, and depending on where you live, all sorts of things are available. But that alludes to one chapter that's also close to my heart, which we call the admin, where we talk about what's actually legally available in different areas in the world, and also what a related cost might look like for a cycle. So I think that's also consideration that's in this whole IVF topic, that there are different options available typically, again, depending on what your body looks like, what your goals are. But it's also very important to understand what is legally possible and available to you in the area that you live, and if you therefore might consider conducting a part of your journey elsewhere.
Yeah, I like that. Think outside of the box, because it's not always, just a linear path, is it? There's lots of other alternatives you can take, and this is when financial pressures can increase, can't they, the further you get down that journey. But yeah, I always think having a clear plan of where you might go next is quite comforting, in terms of what if this doesn't happen, what if this solution doesn't work, you can still think, well, I've got something else to go to as well. So it's obviously, if you are desperate for a child, it's not just IVF, there's so many other options out there as well. So thank you. Could you tell us a little bit more about when you had this is a really personal question, but I know that people listening will want to know. There'll be lots of ladies who have pushed forward in their career, that are really career focused, but are intrigued about having their eggs frozen, and lots of men that maybe might be intrigued for the women around them as well. So could you tell us a little bit more about that journey and what they do?
Absolutely, very happy to. So I think the main consideration is that, you as a woman, you're born with all the eggs that you'll ever have. We don't produce new ones. Now, having said that, there is some research that may have some insights into that in the years to come. But at today, the eggs we have is all we've got. And today's quality is the best we'll ever have. As we age every day, the quality of the eggs will be impacted more and more as time goes on. So anyone who might be interested in doing that, I would suggest to them, just have a conversation with your gynecologist, read up, just try to make up your mind. Is that something that I might want to consider? Because time is of the essence. For me, I was 35. I learned that my reproductive system was actually more closer to 50. And so I just wanted to create options, whatever that might look like in the future. I wanted to create a choice for myself. So I went to a fertility clinic, and we looked at what a treatment plan for me might look like. Again, this is very personal, but I also started, so my cycles with Clomid to kind of entice my eggs to produce more follicles that would be ready that month. So you always do that. Typically, medicine varies. And then you inject, typically it's injections, inject hormones to grow those follicles to a size where they would be so for a size that they can then retrieve them and freeze them. They need to be a certain size for that. And it depends on how your body manages with all these hormones and how the eggs or the follicles are growing. You're monitored during that time typically. What you also take is an ovulation inhibiting hormone as well. So for a while, there's 2 injections that you'll typically have to do, because again, the eggs need to be, or the follicles need to be a certain size. You would then go for a last check to see, how many follicles you've got, are they the right size? And then you'll take another hormone, also an injection in my case, to induce ovulation. And that typically, so ovulation typically takes about 12 to 24 hours, and you then go back to fertility clinic for retrieval. Retrieval, again, looks different for everyone. For me, I didn't have many eggs, so per cycle, I would have tops 1 or 1.5. That is very, 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 very little. On average, one says that, between, 15 to 25. The average varies by country again. So just to put it in perspective how many I had. And so to retrieve, the doctors, they go in through the vagina, and then with an ultrasound and with a needle to kind of suck out the eggs out of the ovaries. Because there's a lot and it's a really uncomfortable process. You're typically put under anesthesia, local or full. I discussed with my doctor, because I just had the one, or twice I had 2 eggs, that we would not do any anesthesia anymore, because that's actually quite a huge cost factor if you look at the breakdown of the cost from the clinic. So it was uncomfortable, but it was completely fine. So that's what I did. And in total, I did 7 cycles, which for me resulted in 5 mature eggs and 2 immature eggs. I like to think of them as my teenager eggs. And they're frozen, and they're there as, for as long as I want. And I have 10 years in Switzerland in total that I can freeze them. And yeah, we'll see what I do with them if I do want a baby, or sorry.
Thank you, Valerie. That was brilliant, brilliant. And I can guarantee there'll be lots of people that have found that really interesting and really, really valuable. Thank you so much. And I guess for you, it enables you to have that peace of mind knowing that you've got them there for whenever you're ready. Thank you again for sharing that, because I know it's a very personal story, so thank you. Bilge, is there anything that you think we've missed in terms of solutions and things that we should be sharing with our listeners?
I'm sure we did, because this is such a broad topic when we talk about fertility. But also, if we go back to egg freezing, Valerie did this at the age of 35. And one of the reasons we have this book and trying to reach the audience that is even younger is because our eggs are even in a better condition when we are younger. So if you ever want to make the decision in the future, okay, I'm not ready now, but I'm not sure if I want a kid, but at least I want to have the peace of mind, okay, I can freeze my egg. And the right ages is around at the end of 20s. To do this. So I think it's a message to all the ladies out there. If you want your freedom, this is one thing you can consider early on.
And do you think that workplaces have a duty to let the female employees know about this? Because obviously, one of the key drivers in people thinking about having children later is the career. So what are your thoughts? Do you think workplaces have a duty to empower women to know about this?
I have quite clear thoughts on this, because I haven't said, but I also have a company around workplace expertise, future of work. So yes, I do believe workplaces need to encourage in any health case situation their employees. because they're 15% of their employees are going through some sort of fertility issues. 15%, and that's going to take them away from being productive. So if you are out there embracing and allowing them to come and speak up about these conditions, and also give them options to manage their situation, that's just going to bring more productivity back to your workplace. So just thinking of point of return on investment, this is the logical thing to do, but also as a workplace, you need to think about your employees, their health. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And I'm just reflecting on when I was going through the IVF, and I didn't speak up about it because my plan B was that if it wasn't successful, I would be giving everything, just really focusing on my career, and that is what I'd be throwing myself into. And I was worried that if I told people that I was going through IVF, people would think, well, she's not on the ball because she's just focusing on that, and that's what she's going to be doing. Where in actual fact, my plan B was that if it didn't work, just throw everything into my career. And I think sometimes we worry, don't we, to speak up and be honest about these things, about them being miscommunicated. Whereas if workplaces are more proactive in terms of talking about it, it enables that clarity, doesn't it, of people to be able to share exactly what's going on.
It is difficult to share as well, right? It's very vulnerable. I mean, we don't even share the topic with our closest sometimes. It's an isolating topic. Yeah. How are you on earth go and talk about it to your colleagues or your boss? It's very vulnerable place.
Yeah. And particularly difficult as well when you're at that age and other people around you maybe getting pregnant, and then they feel uncomfortable. It is very difficult, isn't it, to navigate. But I think going back to what we've said all along, just being able to have those open conversations, it is just a way to get around this. So I'm very conscious of your time. You're both busy ladies. Is there anything we've missed or anything that you really want to leave our listeners with today?
Well, I think we created this book and are talking about the topic of fertility because there is a need to, break down taboos, break down stigmas. And so I hope that, our listeners today take that on board and help and live that and, share their stories, share their worries, their hopes with, their surroundings, and, bit by bit, person by person, we can reach our goals. Our book is there to help and support. Also, we would love for anyone who would like to connect, reach out to us with suggestions or with their story. That would be fantastic. But really, my personal message: get to know yourself, and all your choices, will be the right ones because they'll be made with love, with compassion, and with all the knowledge that you've been able to gather.
Thank you.
For me, reproductive health or fertility health is a muscle that we didn't train at all, and this book is for that. And understand it's about you. Choices that you will make are important for the future. I haven't trained that muscle, or Valerie didn't, and we saw the impact on us, and we don't want it for other people to happen. That's why, let's create an easy book that helps everyone. So get to know yourself, and don't forget, men or women, we are all magic. And it's about our decisions, nothing else. So surrounding yourself with the right people, and creating the team of experts who listens to you are very important to start with.
That's something I call positive noise. Surround yourself with the right positive noise. Ladies, it has been wonderful to speak with you. I really wish I'd had this conversation 20 years ago, as I think it would have been hugely beneficial. But yeah, moving forward, let's keep opening up those conversations. Let's keep sharing solutions and experiences to help other people in their fertility journeys. I will put your details in the show notes, and if people want to get in touch with you, please do reach out to Bilge and Valerie. Thank you. So before you stop listening, I want you to pause. What did you take away from the podcast today? What small steps will you start? And what did you hear that you know could help someone else to make small steps to lead their health, well-being, productivity and performance? Please do share this episode and please subscribe to the podcast. And remember that Leap Health are here to provide workplace health, well-being and performance workshops, one-to-one coaching and bespoke corporate solutions to help the world make small steps to leap health, well-being, productivity and performance. Please do get in touch. It's Anna at leaphealth.co.uk. Have a great day.